Oops. Hi, everyone. Just we'll start at the top of the hour, so we're just going to give folks a few minutes to log in as I work out these mini technical issues. I'm going to go back to the other screen. Oh my God, the Prezi is so funny. There we go. There we go. All right. Apologies, everyone. The Prezi is not my friend today. Give me a minute. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes for folks to log in, and then we'll jump right in. I got rid of the toolbar, everyone. Okay. And as we're waiting for folks to log in, if you can check out your panel, your webinar panel, there is a handout section. So there's two handouts. You can download it, and we highly suggest that you download it. It's a summary of our community programs. It's just a summary of our whole process as well as a class profile for 2019. So feel free to download those two handouts, and at any point during this webinar you have questions, feel free to type into the question box. And we will absolutely get to questions at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to give it about 2 more minutes, and then we'll start at the top of the hour. So again, for those who are just joining in, there are two handouts in the handout section. Make sure you download those before we wrap up later this evening. So it's two handouts you can download, two PDFs. It's our community programs overview, as well as, the college preparatory school programs overview, as well as our class profile. And at any point during this webinar you have questions, just feel free to input them in the question box. Again, we'll start in about a minute. There's also a chat box in which I included a link. It's a bit.ly link that will direct you to our application. So I'll talk about that in a minute. As you can tell, the toolbar is driving me crazy, but we'll ignore it. Thank you for joining, everyone. I know folks are still logging in, so we'll give it 30 more seconds so we hit the top of the hour. I see that folks are already typing in some questions, which I love. Please keep typing them in. I promise we'll get to them at the end. All right, so let's jump right in. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name's Cristina Delgado. I am the program manager for the Southwest region out of Los Angeles, California. The Southwest region is one of 5 regions. We also have offices in the Northwest, the Southeast, the Northeast, and the Middle States, which encompasses the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic areas. So just some webinar housekeeping rules. There is a panel. If you need to dial in to hear because you may be having computer issues, the number is provided for you in the audio section. So feel free to dial in. Also in the email that had the webinar reminder, there's the dialing in information there as well. So feel free to call in if that's better for you. Everyone is in listen only mode, so you're all on mute. You'll just be seeing my screen as well as hearing my voice. And if you check the handout section, there are 2 handouts for you to download. It's our college preparatory school programs overview, as well as our class profile from the last admission cycle. So this presentation will last around 20, I would say it's more likely 30 minutes. And then I will want to quickly walk you through our application and of course answer any questions or concerns that come up. So again, if questions come up at any point, there's that question box. Feel free to type in at any point. And as a follow-up to this presentation, you will receive an automatic email, if not tonight, likely by tomorrow, which will contain information on how to access our application and a reminder about our application deadline, April 15th. Keep that in mind, sear it in your mind. April 15th is our application deadline. And most importantly, well, when we send the automatic email, you'll have the link to access our application. But if you want it now, I've also included it as a chat message in the chat box. So it's that bit.ly/apply to ABC. It'll take you directly to our application. So I know folks are jumping in. We had about 10 more jump in as we started. I'm Cristina Delgado, program manager for the Southwest region. Make sure to download the 2 handouts and type in any questions at any point during this presentation, and we'll get to them at the end. So let's jump right in. Ooh, the Prezi always makes me a little dizzy, so hopefully it doesn't do the same to you. It kind of go fast on my end. So my apologies. So what is a Better Chance? A Better Chance is a national educational access nonprofit organization founded in 1963. I always like to skip to this photo. So we are the only organization doing this kind of work in providing access to higher education for students of color across the nation. A Better Chance was born during the height of the civil rights movement in 1963. This was a time when the country was consciously thinking a social change in action, which created the perfect foundation to actively create a way to change the look of leadership in our country. President JFK sent a call out to the nation asking how can we improve the disparity and bridge the academic gap in order to make it possible for talented and motivated students of color to access some of the finest, most reputable higher education institutions in the country. That was a question and the answer came back, a better chance. So our mission is same as it was in 1963, which is to increase substantially the number of well-educated young people of color who are capable of assuming positions of responsibility and leadership in American society. And we accomplish this mission through our college preparatory schools program, where we recruit, refer, and support students and families through the independent school admissions process, which I will break down throughout this whole presentation. And that's a photo. I always like to zoom in a little bit. As you can see, all boys, and there's one, what, I don't know if she was a student or teacher. The photo's fairly old, so it's a little blurry. But that was our first graduating class, or first class that was placed into schools. And many are still committed to our process and to supporting our scholars today. So looking at our legacy of leadership, Our alumni enjoy success in a large range of career fields, as you can see, and are all still fairly connected to this day. Just to name drop a few, because why not? Governor Deval Patrick was the 71st governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and its first African American chief executive. So, the first African American governor of Massachusetts. And he's only the second African American to serve as governor of any state in the nation. And to update this a bit, he was also running for president and he just recently suspended his campaign. But it's amazing to think how far students have gone. And absolutely a better chance was one of the reasons it pushed him and allowed him to have access to such a world. So it's lovely to see. We also have Bertha Coombs, who was a reporter for CNBC. She graduated from Milton Academy and covers financial markets and business news. And in the arts world, I always like to scoot around a bit. We have Tracy Chapman. You may know the song Fast Car, Give Me One Reason, some famous songs. She still contributes to our organization and to a lot of humanitarian social causes outside the arts. We also have Issa Rae from the HBO show Insecure, who attended Brentwood School in Los Angeles. And bringing it back to California, we also have Kate School alum Sylvia Torres Guillen, who is ACLU of Southern California's Director of Education, Equity, and Senior Legal Counsel. Several of our scholars over the summer, I believe they're graduated scholars, so they did a ton of internships with ACLU over the summer at her office. So a lot of our alum absolutely come back and support our scholars to invest in their futures as well. So what does a better chance actually do? So we work to recruit academically talented students of color currently enrolled in grades 4th through 9th grade to work with us towards placement for grades 6th through 11th in fall of 2021. And I will break that down a bit more. So that means if your student is currently in 4th grade, you would be working with us towards a 6th grade placement at an independent school in fall of 2021. If your child is currently in 7th grade, you would be working with us towards a 9th grade spot at an independent school for fall of 2021. This means our program is about 18 months long, which gives families a manageable timeline to plan out and prepare to complete the admissions process with us. And we will have a ton of workshops in between. And because we are national, we provide students access to over 300 college preparatory independent schools and 22 top performing high schools across the country. And I will break down the types of schools we work with in just a bit and explain what an independent school is. We also streamline the application process. This means that everything we do is 100% online. Email will be live throughout this process. If you are not one who uses email, make sure you change that because email will be live throughout this process. It's our main form of communication, so keep that in mind. In speaking to families, a lot of parents suggest what has been helpful for them is to create a separate email address to begin and create their application, submit their application. So families create one, let's say, Gmail account that the parent and the child have access to that they would check regularly. And that's the same email address they would use to create their A Better Chance account to then submit their application. So that may be one way. Most importantly, you want to create your applications or your account, your Better Chance account. You want to create those accounts with the most active email that you check. So keep that in mind. Email will be live. So again, how streamlining the application works is that in the summer and fall, students will be submitting application pieces to us in 2 parts, and we will build one solid application that will work directly as the application for the member schools we match you with. This means you will not have to spend your time or resources applying to each individual member school that we refer you to, as we will take care of that for you. It's kind of like the Common App if you're familiar with that. And when I said resources, I mean money, as each application to a member school can cost more or less around $150. So it can become very pricey. So because our process is streamlined, we will cover those costs. You will not be paying for each individual school that you're applying to that we match you with. And we also match students with schools. As I previously mentioned, we will match students, and we call this our referral process. How it works is that we will take a look at each student's academic profile, your test scores, your interests, your family preferences, the student school preferences, and then we will then match students with the schools we believe they would have the best chance of getting into. And then we will send that streamlined application out to the schools on your behalf. So we'll act as the official application to the school. We do have ultimate say of where your student application will go, but this is because we have a really strong relationship with our member schools, and we have a deep understanding of the admissions process. So we understand what the schools are looking for year after year, and we know the student profile that would have the best chances of getting in. So we will work together in partnership to understand and figure out best fit so that we set your students up for success instead of having you spend your time and your resources applying blindly to schools. So we will support you through admissions, and that matching piece is absolutely essential because there are so many schools and we want to make sure you use your time and your resources wisely. We will also advocate for your child and your family every step of the way during this admissions process. We will be in constant conversation with schools pushing for our students. So that's such an essential piece. And we will advocate for you not only for admissions, but we will bring more context of we'll bring more context and conversation to schools for your students outside the application. So we want to there's the interview process, but beyond the application, we want to bring your child to life, not just through the interview, but through another counselor. That's how you should view us. We would be your counselor in discussion with schools. So we will be pushing for your kids every step of the way. And we also provide support on an ongoing basis to we will provide resources for families enrolled in our member schools. So those would be for our scholars. Our process also ensures that most families get application fees waived, and families, if they qualify, will also receive waivers during the process, such as for testing and financial aid application waivers, which we'll discuss further on. And on an important point of clarity, I want to note, because this can easily get confused, a better chance does not provide scholarships or financial assistance for tuition. The member schools themselves provide financial aid on an as-needed basis in order for our scholars to attend the independent schools. But we do leverage around $20 million in financial aid on an annual basis, which our member schools have given to our students in order to make this opportunity a reality for families. So we do not provide money towards tuition, and I will walk you through the financial aid aspect of this process. So speaking of our independent schools, they are diverse themselves. First off, independent schools is just essentially a fancy way of saying private schools. What makes them independent is that their budgets are independent. They don't adhere to federal or state laws, and they don't receive any money from state or federal. Their budget is basically they fundraise for their own budget, which means they don't have to adhere to the state or federal curriculums. They create their own curriculum, which gives the opportunity to individualize education for each student. So first and foremost, we have the independent day school, which are schools you will commute to and from each day. You would be responsible for transportation unless the school provides a bus. So it's a local school that you commute to and from each day. We also work with independent schools across the country. The majority are for high school. There are select few for junior boarding schools. that start at 7th or 8th grade. We do not push students in any direction. We are here to open as many options as possible, and we will work with families to support what you are looking for as well. So boarding schools are essentially where the students will live on campus throughout the school year. They will live and study on campus throughout the year. And our community school program is unique to A Better Chance. This is where the students live in a supervised A Better Chance home with about 5 to 12 fellow scholars. And the houses are located in a suburban community with an excellent school system. So students will be attending the local public school, which are ranked among the most competitive in the country. And I believe it's typically there's an income cap to qualify for the community school programs, but it is essentially free to our families, and I believe at most they cover flights for their children. So it's a wonderful option. So 3 phases from the applicant phase. You are all currently in the applicant phase. Ooh, did I slip it? Apologies. I think I skipped ahead. Oh, sorry if I'm making you dizzy. All right, so financing independent schools. Yes, this is absolutely a really, really important piece. First off, as you can see these numbers right here, the example, this is definitely outdated. Realistically, boarding schools cost closer to $60,000 to $70,000 a year for tuition and room and board. For day schools, and I can speak to Los Angeles day schools, they cost around $45,000 more or less. Do not, and I'm sure you've done some research, do not allow money to be the reason why you do not apply to A Better Chance. It's absolutely still a possibility. So do not look at those tuition costs to start out with. We will guide you through the financial aid process in the fall, but essentially schools use applications to determine how much families can realistically contribute towards their child's education. The application will take into account your income, assets, expenses, etc., to determine how much you can realistically contribute. This will not be like college admissions where you can get scholarships on a merit basis. So for the independent schools, it's on an as needed basis. So every family will contribute something, but that amount will be determined on your actual financial picture. And that financial picture will be determined through the applications you submit. So that's how the schools will get to know your financial picture. And then they'll determine how much they have in their budget and try to meet your need to make this opportunity possible for as many students as possible. Again, don't let the price tags of these schools deter you from applying. They're definitely expensive, but don't let that deter you. I have families contributing towards their child education around $50 a year, and then I have some families paying closer to full tuition. But again, it's based on your individual family's financial picture. So keep that in mind. And they call it a need-based process. Apologies, I skipped ahead earlier. So who is eligible? As I mentioned, you should apply to A Better Chance if you're currently in 4th through 9th grade and are looking to be placed at an independent school for 6th through 11th grade in fall of 2021. So students currently in 4th, 5th, and 7th grade, currently in 4th, 5th, and 7th, will have more opportunities as 5th, 6th, and 9th grade are natural entry points for schools. I hope that makes sense. So currently, if you're in 4th, 5th, or 7th, those are natural entry points since you would work with us towards a 5th, 6th grade placement, which are the typical entry points from middle school. My apologies. Let me start that over. So if you're currently in 4th grade, that means you would be working with us towards 6th. If you're currently in 5th, that means you're working with us towards 7th. 6th and 7th grade are the typical middle school entry points. So that's why we suggest 4th and 5th. And for 7th graders, that's they would be working with us towards a ninth grade spot, which again is a high school natural entry point. My apologies. And if you are off year, we still encourage you to apply as it is still possible. It's just going to be a bit more competitive and we can have one-on-one conversations. And I would suggest reaching out to your program manager to discuss what the possibilities are. And I always get asked the question, well, let me get to this first. So we are looking for students who are academically talented, who have a track record of earning consistent A, B average, specifically in math or English language arts. And students who will likely receive good teacher recommendations, as that is very much a great tell of how the students are doing, not just by meeting, working towards getting high grades, but they speak more to how the student is in the classroom, which screams volumes. So definitely that's something we're looking for. And I always get asked if students should apply if they've received C's in the past. The answer is yes, but we definitely want to see a proven upward swing and that the student is committed to improvement. Just we want families to keep in mind this is a very competitive process and consistent high grades are very important. We are also looking for students who show leadership potential and willingness to participate in activities in and out of schools. It can be something such as in school, school council, or you're part of clubs, affinity groups, or outside of school, whether that's Girl Scouts or community service, or you play club soccer, basketball, whatever it may be. We understand that many public schools lack extracurriculars and they may not be financially accessible, but this does not mean that the student cannot still take on roles of responsibility. It could be something like babysitting your younger siblings or tutoring your cousins. We really are looking for ambitious students take pride in their work and who are also self-motivated in and out of the classroom. So we definitely are looking for students who take ownership of this process and who are invested in this process, because we can often read from a mile away if the parent is driving the process. And so just keep that in mind. Make sure you let your students shine on their own, because if they're not invested, this is definitely a competitive and tough process, and they're going to have to stick with it and keep shining their bright lights as they go through this process. So just keep that in mind. We're looking for students who take ownership, as well as students who identify and self-identify as student of color. So that's students who are Black, African American, Latino, Asian, Native American, multiracial, etc. And unfortunately, we have changed our rules and no longer are we able to accept students who are children of a better chance alum. And we also do take into consideration income of families. We will be asking for financial documentation. That's to serve two purposes: to see if you qualify for fee waivers, as well as we take income into consideration on the higher end in order to make sure we are serving families who would not have access otherwise. And we do this on a case-by-case basis. So just to keep that in mind, as it's part of the application process. So 3 phases. So you are all currently in the applicant phase. This is where you will be logging into our website, creating an account with your most active email address, and submitting an application by April 15th. Once you submit that application, we will send you information regarding our benchmark SSAT exam that we're going to require families to sit for if you live within, I think it's about 50 miles. And again, once you submit that application by April 15th, we will send you an email typically the following Friday with that benchmark testing information. The dates vary region to region, location to location. So we suggest submit as early as possible so you can get those dates on your calendar. And on June 15th, we will release decisions by email. The students accepted will be moved into the cohort phase. They will officially be part of the A Better Chance cohort, which will be cohort 8, and you will be officially part of phase 2, the candidate phase. So phase 2 candidate phase, this is where the bulk of the work will take place. For those who have been accepted to the cohort, the candidate group, this is where a better chance begins to prepare students for fall admissions. So beginning with the summer, we will host a cohort welcome, and towards the middle end of the summer, we will have workshops that will prep students for the admissions process. So it will be typically a weekend or 4 days. It's different region to region. Once you're accepted to the cohort, we will share those dates with you so you can have them and be well prepared for them by the time summer comes along. You'll have them on the calendar. We host about one workshop a month. It varies, of course, but every workshop is vital. Your attendance is going to be counted only because each workshop we share a lot of information that will prepare you and set you up for success for fall admissions. We will also be breaking down how each step in the admissions process will work in reality and what step by step you will be needing to do. And in the fall and winter months, this is where a better chance will begin to make decisions of matching your students with schools. And then that's when we will be sending your streamlined application out to all the schools we refer you to. And we'll also have workshops regarding financial aid. And just again, remember attendance will be vital, and we will absolutely share dates for every workshop well ahead of time so you have that on your calendar. Once we get to the following spring, and it's typically in March, that's when schools release their decisions. That's for those students who are accepted and placed into a school. That is when students are officially a better chance scholars. From there, we will host a new scholar orientation. It's probably one of our most fun workshops of the year. It's not going to be academic based as the candidate workshops. The new scholar orientation is really an opportunity for all the scholars to come together, to get to know them, each other. So they have essentially a tribe going into a support system once they move on to their independent schools. Our scholars often remain friends for life and connected for life. So it's a wonderful network they build within themselves. And we support all the way, of course. So the new scholar orientation will be an opportunity for the students to come together, as well as we help students transition and to understand what it will be like transitioning to an independent school. We also ask scholars and families to remain active in our program. We will have a ton of volunteer experience opportunities for students and parents to contribute to. The more active students are, the better we can get to know you, and we will have a ton of opportunities for scholars to participate, and it's typically through a nomination basis. So the more active scholars are, the more they'll have opportunities to participate in. We have access to study abroad programs, Yale Global Scholars, Barnard summer programs, Notre Dame, and a ton of other opportunities. So that's typically what the 3 phases look like, with phase 2 being the busy, busy time. So that's the calendar. So again, you're in the applicant phase. Benchmark typically takes place in April and May, and June 15th is when we release decisions. And again, phase 2, cohort candidate phase, is where the bulk of the work will take place. We will have our cohort welcome, summer workshops to do all the admissions prep, admissions 101. September, that's when the first part of the real application will be submitted to us. So we'll be asking for essays, and that's when you'll be testing, and I'll talk about that next. We will also host a school fair. The school fair is really a wonderful opportunity. It typically takes place between October and November. Essentially, this is an opportunity for our A Better Chance students only. So the schools, so it'll be boarding and day schools will come together locally, and we will provide space regionally, and it'll be a school fair just for our students, which will allow for one-on-one communication and FaceTime with schools. It's really such a great opportunity. And in October and through November and December, that's when we're doing the referral process, matching students with schools. And then in December, that's when you'll be submitting your financial aid applications, and the second part of the real application will be due. Again, I know this sounds like a lot, but just know that we're going to be breaking this down every step of the way. We will be sending you a ton of reminders. It will be impossible to miss something unless you're not checking your email, but otherwise we will keep you on track, and that's our main purpose here, to make sure we're opening opportunities for your student and family, as well as being your support system and keeping you on track for this process. So that's typically what the months look like, and that's the scholar phase. So SSAT and ISEE testing, these are entrance exams which are required for independent schools. It looks different from region to region, but essentially the ISCE in the Southwest region is typically required by all the day schools, and the SSAT exam is required by typically all national boarding schools. Region to region, it's a bit different. Some boarding schools prefer the ISCE, some day schools prefer the SSAT. This is why we suggest families to take both exams. Honestly, a lot of students do better on one versus the other, so it's really smart to take both exams. And again, for the A Better Chance application process, we require families to sit for the SSAT benchmark exam. The benchmark is free, and again, we will send registration information as soon as you submit your application before April 15th. So we will send the information, as the dates vary region to region. It's free. No student does very well on this benchmark exam, as they're pretty challenging, and we don't expect you to do well and we don't expect students to prep, essentially because they're going to be taking the exam as if they're a year ahead, so that when it comes to the real testing in the fall, they're already going to be a step ahead and have familiarity with the test. It's essentially the best way to figure out, once you get those scores, it's the best way to figure out where you're going to need to focus your test prep for the real exam in the fall. It also is an opportunity to get rid of test nerves, because no one really enjoys taking exams, but it's really a great opportunity to get a leg up in the process. Again, it's free and it is required for the admissions process, because we absolutely want students to have that practice, whether or not they get accepted to the cohort or not. And so again, we don't really require prep for the benchmark exam as an opportunity for you, but for the real exams in the fall, the ICE and the SSAT, test prep will be essential. Test scores aren't everything in this process, but it will determine the types of schools we match you with, because again, this process is incredibly competitive. Schools do look at application and all of its pieces holistically, including the interview, but because they're competitive, they're receiving thousands of applications for some schools, which means they do have to use test scores in order to determine academic readiness. So keep that in mind. And you will, through our partnerships, you will have access to test prep online. So that's to come once you're in the cohort. And another reason why we suggest families to take the ISE and the SSAT is because we as an organization are able to act as a test center. So regionally, we will be hosting the exams local to you. So if we're going to have classrooms set up, typically at an independent school, it varies from region to region, but I will act as a test center and you will take the test with us, meaning it will be small. You won't be taking the tests. You'll be taking the tests with your cohort members, so you'll already be familiar with everybody in the room as well. And so it'll be low stress versus the bigger test national dates, which tend to have a lot of students testing at the same time. So keep that in mind. And another reason why we ask for financial aid or financial documentation as part of the application process is because if you qualify, we will have one fee waiver for each exam for each student. So keep that in mind. All right, to wrap it up, and before we get to some questions, Again, our process is free, and if I didn't mention that, my apologies. Our process is free and aim to save you time and resources. And we support students in matching them with schools that we believe would be best fit. And again, we have long and deep relationships with our member schools, so we understand what they're looking for on a year-to-year basis. So we do a great job about fitting students at schools where they would have the best chance of getting in. Again, the application, which we're gonna switch screens to look at the application. It's due April 15th, and we highly suggest you start as soon as possible because it does involve you submitting transcripts as well as recommendations. And that's, teachers and schools are very busy this time of year. And always, they're very, very busy. So recommendations, you want to let your teachers know as soon as possible because you want to make sure they write you a good one. So you don't want to let them know last minute. So with that in mind, let's switch over. I just want to quickly look at the application, then I'll answer questions. So if you go to the chat box, I included a little shortened bit.ly to access our application. I'm going to copy and paste it. Well, I kind of already have it open, but let me just cheat a little bit. bit.ly/apply to ABC. Click. It'll take you to our ding, ding, ding. This is what the A Better Chance account will look like. You're going to need to create an account. Make sure you use your most active email address. Again, I've heard from parents it's been very useful to create your one email address the student and parents can have access to. So once you submit, it's going to send you an email with the instructions. So you'll submit your email address. Oh, ignore that. I have a little dummy account that we can use, but you'll type in your email address. You'll submit by clicking send account instructions. Just a heads up, a lot of our emails end up in spam and junk boxes, so keep that in mind. If you don't see the email right away, check your spam or junk box. That's very common. So going back to the login form, you'll get the email and that'll give you access immediately. So once you come back to the account, you'll log in, sign in. So this is what the application will look like. There's instructions here, and they're in English and Spanish as well. So download it, review it. So the application itself is 11 pages long. Some families find it, everything's gonna be online, but you can also, once you type everything in, oh, it's 12 pages long now. I'm not going to go through all of this. Make sure to input all the information. Even if you have a household with two parents, make sure you include both parents' information. Whether or not you live in the same household, it's important to put all the information. And most importantly, when you're typing in email addresses, make sure it's accurate. Double, triple check that. So once you're completed, make sure you can save as you go, but once you're completed, make sure you click submit. And before you click submit, I highly suggest that folks view and print so they can double check if they've missed anything. So just go through it. I don't mean to make anyone dizzy if I'm going through too fast. Sorry, I'm gonna roll down. So it requires parent guardian questionnaire. We don't expect, scholarly essays. We just want you to, talk about your student as much as possible in a positive light. We have seen parents be somewhat too transparent, a bit harsh. We want you to be honest, but in a positive light. Don't lie and don't, we want you to advocate for your child to the best of your ability in that case. We're going to be asking for financial information, proof of income for both parents, whether or not you live in the same household or not, as it helps us in determining if you qualify for waivers, and it'll help us moving forward to the fall when we're discussing with schools and pushing for you for advocacy. Oops. Oh, that's what I downloaded. Make sure you review those. Super useful. assets and all. Oh, keep going. And then there's a student section. So this is all the parent section. And then please review all these items. It's not as stressful as terms and what is it? Terms and conditions, but please read through it and then sign. And this section beginning here, application section, activities and interests, this is to be filled out by the student. So keep that in mind. It says it a little bit small, but make sure the student is filling it out, and fill out as much as possible, as detailed as possible. It's super helpful. And again, this all needs to be submitted by the student, filled out by the student. If there's a portfolio, feel free to attach it. We would love to see that if you have one, or links to a portfolio, whatever it may be. Academics, short answer. When we say short answer, do not submit one word. Make sure you make them full sentences. Again, no one word answers. It looks sloppy, and make sure it's grammatically correct. We do look at those things. So keep that in mind. Do not submit one word answers, full sentences. And give as much detail. They're short answers, but give as much details. It's really your opportunity to show your personality, and to, we won't be able to meet you until probably way after we read your application. So this is how you bring your application to life. And we can see how invested families and students are. So parents, make sure we understand how old the students are, whether they're 4th, 5th, 7th grade. We're not expecting college answers, so keep that in mind. We want to make sure it's in the student's voice. And the essays as well. Make sure you type your essays on a Word document, then copy paste so you can catch any spelling mistakes. And don't submit a first draft. Make sure you review it. So these are the topics. All right, so once that is done, you can save and submit. I'm not going to do that here. But the online recommendations, how it's going to work, we require one recommendation from your principal or school counselor, and one from a core academic teacher. So we're asking preferably from your math teacher or your English teacher. How it's going to work is you're going to edit the request, click edit request, type in the recommender's email, and write a message to the recommender, then click send. Once you do that, it's going to send an email directly to your recommender, and it's going to be a form that your recommenders fill out. They're not going to be writing a letter of recommendation for your student. It's just a form they will fill out. The biggest thing to note here is make sure your recommenders know to expect the email. The email is going to look like it's coming from a better chance. And again, it will likely end up in spam or junk boxes. So keep that in mind. That's super important. So again, you're gonna want to give your recommenders a heads up and make sure that if they don't see the email coming from a better chance, to check their junk or spam box. Another thing I've noticed, if it's an email handle from a school district, if they have a strong firewall, it can block our emails. So keep that in mind. Like for Los Angeles School District, some of the LAUSD emails get blocked. Our emails get blocked for some reason. So keep that in mind. If that happens, you'll just need to ask for a different email address, but it's not often. I just wanted to keep that in mind. And once that is submitted, that's all you need to do. But keep in mind, it takes about 7 to 10 days for your items to be processed. My apologies. Beyond the application form, there's supporting documents. We're asking you to upload a photo, a green card if you have one, transcripts or report cards as for your previous complete year, 2018 to 2019, and as current as possible, 2019 to 2020. So you'll upload those, preferably PDFs. They need to be PDFs, not pictures, PDFs. Keep that in mind. And we're asking for standardized testing. So whatever it may be, the CAASP, STAR testing, you'll upload that. Once you've uploaded everything, you will click that box and submit. Make sure to submit. And if you don't have it all completed, you can save as you go. So keep that in mind. So once you have the application form completed, supporting documents completed, you will get check boxes, but keep in mind it takes about 7 to 10 days for items to be processed and to reflect business days, by the way, take 7 to 10 business days for your application items to be processed and for you to get these little check marks to show that they've been completed. So keep that in mind. And as soon as you submit all the pieces, you will receive the instructions for the benchmark exam. And it's region to region, so we don't have the dates here. So as soon as you submit the application form, you'll receive an email with those dates. And if at any point you have technical issues, you will want to reach out to admissions at abetterchance.org. They are the ones who are capable of troubleshooting technical issues on the back end of things. So keep that in mind. And again, read this thoroughly. Our emails do end up in junk and spam boxes regularly, so keep that in mind. All right, with that being said, another thing is, let's see. Yeah, that's the application. So we have about 14 minutes to answer questions, but another thing I wanted to show you as well is our website. So abetterchance.org. This is Deval Patrick here. Boop. This is our student Jay Bailon, who attends the Thatcher School here in Ojai, California. Savine Kang, who attends Harvard Westlake, a day school out here in Studio City, California. Roxanne Gay, she is also on our board, a national board of directors and alum of our program. Oh, and I missed her. Sorry, she's blocked by my panel. So you can go through here. It's super interesting to see their stories. But what I wanted to show you from our website is if you clicked our partners tab, you can see the member schools we work with. And that's super important if you want to begin doing your research now. So we have independent day, boarding, and our community school programs. This map isn't very updated. It will be updated soon. Most importantly, there's a school directory. So feel free to look into that. You can go region to region. You can go by grade levels, school type, or by state. So that's something useful for a lot of families. So with that, I now want to answer some questions. Let me get back to the Prezi. Q&A. Apologies, this panel is a little funky. Let me open that back up. All right, so let's get to some questions. Oh, we have a lot of questions coming through. Toyin is asking if a student from the Southwest region can apply to schools in the Northwest region. Absolutely, because we are a national organization, how it will work is we have a boarding committee, and we'll discuss this way later in the fall. But how it'll work, in the summer, we're going to ask you what your school preferences are, because during the summer as well, we're going to be tasking you with member school research. So by the time we get to end of summer, we're going to be asking you to submit a list of schools that you are really interested in, which will include, are you open to boarding schools? Are you only open to day schools? If you're open to boarding schools, are you interested in schools in the Bay Area, in the Southeast, whether it be Georgia or Tennessee? Are you open to schools in the Northeast, whatever it may be? We're going to ask you for those preferences, which will help us guide matching you with schools. So there are a ton of boarding schools in the Northeast region. If you're interested in that, you will just let us know in the fall by submitting your preferences, and we'll go from there in matching. So yes, it's absolutely possible. You are not committed. If you're in Los Angeles, you're not committed to only applying to schools in Los Angeles. You'll have access to schools across the country. So it's asking where the link is. I referenced at the top of the hour. It's the bit.ly link, and it's in the chat box. But once once this webinar ends, we will send you an automatic email. You'll likely get it either tonight or by tomorrow, and it'll give you the same link to access our application. Someone's asking, why do we need a recommendation from the principal or school counselor? It's really helpful for us to see, it needs to be a principal or a school counselor because we're looking for someone who's on administrative staff. So it helps us to understand how the student is outside of the classroom. So I know a lot of schools are fairly large. In LA, our schools have thousands of students, absolutely. So what we suggest is trying to see if you can schedule maybe a 15, 30-minute meeting with your principal. Let them know what you're applying to and just ask them if they can support you and to fill out that recommendation. That's been super helpful for families. And the recommendations are required. Someone's asking what input parents and families have in the referral school selection, for example, location. Families, parents, and students absolutely we will need your support in order to determine best fit because we are going to be working in partnership. So that school preferences form that I was mentioning, you're going to be submitting end of summer, so in the early fall. That's where we're going to have families submit what they're most interested, so it'll determine what locations you and your family are open to, if you're only open to day schools, if you're only open to boarding school, or if you're open to everything. And what I like to tell families, even to start now, the more opportunities you're open to, the more opportunities you will have. So just keep that in mind. That's typically our motto, and also to trust the process. Because I know when I mentioned that we do have ultimate say, that can be daunting, but really it's only because we want you all to trust the process because we've been working with our schools for many, many years, and we have a deep understanding of what they're looking for. Somebody's asking if let's say they're accepted to our cohort and they get into a member school that is a K through 8. So they start the school typically at 6th grade and the school ends at 8th grade. Will a better chance support their application high school? Yes, we will absolutely support you. Sometimes that's a really great opportunity if students are interested in boarding school, we can explore that. We definitely want students to remain as scholars with a better chance, so we will absolutely support your application to a high school. And you will have a ton of options, more options for high school, since not only do you have your day schools, but you'll have access to boarding and the community school programs. Someone's asking, they currently have a 6th grader, but they're interested in applying for 9th grade. Should we hold off and wait until next year? If you only want your child to apply to work with us towards the 9th grade spot, yes, you're going to want to wait to apply to our program when they are in the 7th grade. You're going to want to wait till the spring of the 7th grade year, if that makes sense. So once students are in 7th grade, they would apply to us in the spring. And if they're accepted, they will work with us towards 9th grade. I hope that makes sense. It's always a little tricky. Someone's asking if families will apply for financial aid directly, or is that part of the ABC advocacy and support process? No, we will guide you through the financial aid process and step by step how you're going to need to fill them out, but it will be the family's responsibility to submit the financial aid applications. That's because we don't have all your information beyond the W-2s, 1099s, or tax returns we're going to ask you for, just to see if you can qualify for our fee waivers. But essentially, you're going to be submitting those financial aid applications, but we will be letting you know which schools require which application and the codes you need for each school. And we will have one webinar that will cover it, and then individually and regionally, we will also support you and have more information for financial aid. And another thing I didn't mention when we're determining best fit, another reason why we ask for your financial documentation is because we have data going back years we've collected to see how much schools are awarding our students. So that is another factor, and that's something we use as a tool to match students with schools. Let's say you need a lot of financial aid. We know that the particular schools who are capable of awarding families more financial aid versus other schools who may not be able to award as much financial aid. So that's another factor when we're looking at best fit. Somebody's asking where they can find the regional program coordinator's contact information. You can absolutely access if you go to our website, you can find all the contact information. I believe it's under the leadership area. I don't quite know. It's off the top of my head, but it's absolutely on our website. And in general, you can email the region at abetterchance.org. So likely for the Northwest region, it'll be northwest at abetterchance.org. Just keep in mind, over the next month, we are currently finalizing admissions for our current students. So we are absolutely a bit overwhelmed. In a few weeks, we'll have more air to breathe and we'd be happy to be more in conversation. Just, I would expect a little slower response at this point in time as we wrap up admissions for the current cycle. Somebody's asking if an applicant is selected and accepted to the cohort in June, but they're not available to attend summer programming, our summer program. That is absolutely something that comes up because we know a lot of families are already committed to summer programming. Our students are participating in programs as well. What we're going to ask is for families to stay in communication with us. That's going to be key. If we don't hear from you at all, that shows that you're not invested and you will likely be cut from the cohort. If you cannot attend, you just need to communicate with us, and it will be a responsibility to catch yourself up, but we will provide you with the tools to catch yourself up. So again, if you can't attend a workshop, and this will be for all of our workshops, if you cannot attend once you're in the cohort, make sure you communicate with your programs team and let them know so they still know that you're invested in the process. Someone's asking if they can change the email they provided in the beginning to continue getting information. If you want to change the email, I would suggest either submitting, it depends. If it was an inquiry that you submitted one email, want to change it, you may want to just submit a new inquiry form. If you already started your application and created your account, I suggest reaching out to admissions, plural, at abetterchance.org. Again, that's admissions at abetterchance.org. I think I actually typed that out for everyone. Oh, there we go. I did. So admissions at abetterchance.org. That's going to be very much your go-to for all things technical because they can help update things on the back end. And here's a shortened link to access the application, but again, we'll follow up as well. Sorry, scrolling through. Somebody is asking what the contract is. There's the parent declaration. It's within the application form. You're just going to want to read it before you sign it. Yeah, someone's asking if it's okay to take pictures of the report cards or does it have to come from the school directly? Yes, you can take a picture. I do, and we prefer an official transcript. If you take a picture of it, that's fine because we'll be able to see the emblem if it's an official. We aren't able to accept physical paper. Everything's gonna be online, so it doesn't need to come from the school directly. You're gonna need to upload it to our website. So the schools won't be able to upload it for you. What I mean with the pictures, one, if you're going to take a picture, make sure it's very, very clear. And then you're going to want to convert it to a PDF. The website I often use is smallpdf.org. Wait, I think it's smallpdf dot something. Let me see. Hold on. Let's check that out for you. It's super useful. Hold on. Small PDF. Yeah, smallpdf.com. That you can convert your images to PDFs. That's super useful. I think they're pretty strict. They only let you use maybe one or two to convert, but it's super useful. Make sure the picture is clear. Is the benchmark exam taken the same day by all the applicants? It depends region to region. For Los Angeles, we host two exams, one in Los Angeles and one in Santa Ana. Depending, they're typically spread out 1 week apart, and I believe ours will be in May. Once we lock those dates down, you will have them. Okay, so somebody's asking if you have the ability to download and print the completed application. Yes, and I highly suggest that you download it and print it. We can't accept paper applications. You'll have to submit it online. But just to show you, yes, you can absolutely do that. Ooh, we're coming up on time, so I'm gonna scroll through but yeah, that's where you can view and print. It's super useful to keep. So let me scroll through these to make sure. Someone's asking if I could repeat about a second parent if they don't live together. We ask even if parents live in separate households to provide as much information as possible. Even if they're not financially contributing, we do ask because schools will ask, because oftentimes we have one parent who's driving the process, and let's say they are separated or divorced, whatever it may be, it can become tricky later down the line when schools are working through financial aid. They require every adult in the equation to submit financial aid application. Even if the parents aren't together, they're going to expect it. If the second parent doesn't financially contribute, there's a space to converse and input that into the application as well. But it's important to put as much information as possible. If there's a parent who's completely absent, of course, you do what you need to do. If you're driving the process on your own, that's one thing. But if both parents are involved in the child's life, we want all information so we can keep everybody in communication. But yeah, we can keep discussing that. There's particulars within that. It's mainly to make sure every adult in the child's life is kept in communication. Someone's asking if if you'll be alerted when the recommendations are completed by your recommender. Yes, you'll get a checkbox, but keep in mind it takes everything around 7 to 10 business days to be processed and for it to be reflected in your account. And to be reflected means that you'll see a green check mark. Someone's asking if this program will be for all 4 years of high school, or will they need to reapply for the process every year? No, once you are placed at a school, that is your spot at a school for until you graduate. The only thing you're going to need to reapply for each year once you get into a school is financial aid. All schools require you to submit a new application every year. That is because your finances may change year to year. Let's say a parent loses a job within the next school year, there will be an opportunity to update that information, and the schools will work to provide more tuition. Or let's say you hit the lottery and you make a ton more money, the school will expect you to pay more money. And they'll know that because they're going to require you to submit that financial aid piece every year. And I believe that's typically done, I cannot remember, at the top of the school year, so early fall. But that's when your children are into the school, so we'll discuss that more. So your teacher will be submitting a recommendation form only. Everything else that needs to be submitted will be uploaded to you. By you, sorry, will be uploaded by you into your account. So the transcripts and standardized test scores, let me see if I can get to it. That's all going to be submitted by you. So let me show you. I have the panel. It blocks everything. My apologies, everyone. I'll give it 5 more minutes. I know it's at the top of the hour. I know if you need to log out, it's your prerogative. I'll answer questions for a few more minutes just because I want to get to all the questions. So for the supporting documents, you'll click complete form. This is where you'll upload the photo, the green card if you have one, transcripts or report card. The schools will not be uploading it. You'll be uploading it yourself, and that will be a PDF document. So make sure you do that. This is another website for you to convert your pictures to your PDFs. Oh, my apologies for clarity. Once you submit this application form, the 12-page application form, once you complete and click submit, that's when it will send you an email to confirm the acceptance, and typically you'll receive it the following Friday. That's when you will receive the information for the benchmark exam dates and registration. Let me see. Someone is saying they already signed their fourth grader up for the SSAT for March 7th. That depends if the SSAT is the benchmark exam through us or not. If you submitted, if you're registered to take the SSAT exam already, it's up to you if you want to, outside of our benchmark. That is up to you if you want to take the test that day. It's not required for our process. The only thing we required was the benchmark exam. If you are already taking the SSAT exam, we will accept that in lieu of the benchmark exam. I would suggest reaching out to SSAT to see if it's refundable or not. I don't quite know. The only thing we require is for the benchmark exam. So if you are taking that, the real exam, it's not going to be a loss. So you can take the real exam in lieu of the benchmark exam. Unfortunately, we aren't on our end. There's no way for us to cancel the exam you registered for or provide a refund on our end, unfortunately. But it's not a loss. You won't take the benchmark exam with us. We will just make sure that the SAT exam you're signed up for takes place of the required benchmark. Somebody's asking how many applicants you receive for the cohort. That is absolutely region to region. It looks very much different. I would say about, it's very hard to say. It's definitely region to region. It's about 75% get accepted. That don't hold me to that. It's very different region to region. That's a difficult question to ask. Sorry, or answer, not ask. It was a good question to ask. Let's see. I would say someone's asking how many students apply to ABC and how many are accepted. On average, we support about more or less 2,000 students nationally. So I would say it's a bit less than 2,000 nationally. And regionally, it looks different. So the Northeast, I think Mid-Atlantic region, including the Midwest, works with around 500 more or less students. The Northeast, which includes, Boston area through New York, works with about 300 to 400 students. The Southeast around the same. Los Angeles is a bit smaller, around 150, as there's a lot more barriers in terms of driving access to schools. So it's different region to region. Someone's asking what is the difference between There are a ton of organizations that are similar. We do not, if you're applying to another organization, access organization, you cannot work with both organizations as it is duplicative work. And, the schools, it won't work for the schools as well. So you will only want to work with one organization. I would say the difference between, I can speak to the Independent School Alliance, which is local to Los Angeles. They're a great organization. We partner with them every once in a while for certain things. But for the Alliance, they are set up a bit differently in the sense that they're day school focused and they do one-on-one with a consultant fee. We do more group work and we are at no cost to families. And we also have access to boarding schools. So it's a different setup. It just depends what works for you and your family. Make sure you research both, and you can always reach out to your program manager to discuss. If you apply for independent school before you start the ABC program, can you transfer to the school when you are accepted by a better chance? So a better chance, our purpose is to work with families to access independent schools. If you're currently attending an independent school that we work with, it may not be the best idea to work with us, as it's not going to really benefit any differently, especially if it's a school we already work with. But that's something you want to reach out to your programs team to discuss one-on-one, because it may depend on school to school, or if it's a school that's not in our member school network, then it's absolutely a great opportunity. If a student isn't accepted this year, they can absolutely reapply the next year. Someone's asking for a program that helps students prepare for the standardized exam, whether it's ISEE or the SSAT. Yes and no. We do have partnerships with an online test prep company, and that once students are in the cohort, we share that information out. But that is essentially the responsibility of the families. There are a ton of resources out there. There are free resources online. There are also, you can get a book that covers both exam, I think on Amazon or anywhere else online or in a bookstore. You can find a big book for about $20. It covers both exams. I would suggest trying to get to know other cohort students. You can buy one book and set up your study buddies or whatever it may be. You can share resources, but again, there's a ton of free resources online. A lot of libraries have books as well. And some I've been noticing, and I've seen in Los Angeles, excuse me, there are some libraries that actually have free resources and test prep. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Yeah, so it's going to be a responsibility for test prep, but there are a ton of resources out there, so keep that in mind. And you just need to find what resource works best for your child. And my biggest advice for students in test prep is really to begin those habits for test prep, whether it be to study 10 minutes a day. That is something super important. Begin testing yourself and playing with the vocabulary or playing with the math, but the vocabulary is always a good place to start as well, because it'll help you in your day-to-day school. Someone's asking, let's see, someone's asking to explain more of how financial status is weighted in the decision to admit to ABC. It only affects families who their incomes are on the very high end of the spectrum, or as we want to make sure we focus our resources on students who would not have access otherwise. And regardless, our focus to collect financial documentation is to ensure that you qualify for waivers through whether it be test waivers or financial aid application waivers throughout this process. Someone's asking if they are a single parent or are a divorced family with two-parent households. We are asking for financial documentation from both households. If one parent refuses to give financial information, we have seen that in the past, and the parent is the only source of one parent's the only source of support, then you will just have one-on-one conversations and we can guide you from there. It's nothing new at all, but you just want to be, what we've come across in the past is parents submitting one parent's income information, and then down the road the students write essays discussing both parents, and it becomes a red flags for the schools, and it looks as if you're withholding financial information. So they'll be hesitant to award and invest a lot of money in a family who's not being transparent. Hope that makes a bit more sense. And before we even get there, you can have one-on-one conversations with your programs team. They'll help guide you in those particulars as well. As it's nothing new. We come across all sorts of situations. Yeah, and again, and the thing I always love to drive home is make sure you really read through the emails that we send out thoroughly and check your spam or junk box. We will work really hard to keep you on track, and sometimes we will be sending you emails that are pretty lengthy, but make sure you read through it because it's a lot of important information that we don't want you to miss out on. Mm-mm. So for recommendations, specifically the core teacher recommendation, we prefer that your current math or current English teacher submit the recommendation on your student's behalf. But when I say current, that's what I mean. They need to be your current teacher. You don't want a teacher from the year or two before. So if your child is new to a school or doesn't quite have a relationship with the teacher, this is the time to begin those relationships. Either maybe set some time, have your child ask for maybe some time during a recess or after school, 5 to 10 minutes, just to talk about what they're planning to apply for, and ask the teacher if they'll write them a good recommendation on their behalf. And again, let the teachers know they're not writing a full letter. It's a form that's guided for them to fill out. So it shouldn't take them much time, but of course, we want them to put in as much great information about your child as possible. I'm not going to be able to get to all the questions as we're past 7:15 at this point. I'm trying to make sure. Someone's asking what the average offered financial aid is. Again, it's on an as needed basis. So once a student is accepted to a school, the one on the back end of things, the internal side, the schools, once they receive the applications and read through it, they typically go through a committee and decide which students they want to accept. It's called blind admissions. So once they have their list of students they accept, they will then later look at the financial aid applications and look at their own budget to see how they can meet your financial need to make the opportunity realistic for your family. So that's how it works. It's on an as needed basis, and the schools will determine how much a family needs by those financial aid applications families will submit, but that will be in the fall. So for now, as I wrap up, I just want to drive home that make sure you follow the link. You'll receive a follow-up email to this presentation. Make sure you follow that link and begin your application today, and create your accounts with an email address that you most actively use. So again, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. I know we went over. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of the questions, but keep in mind as you go through this process, if questions do come up, make sure to reach out to your regional teams. And if you have any technical issues, reach out to admissions@abetterchance.org. And don't forget, the deadline to submit your applications is April 15th. Don't miss the date. Make sure you submit in time. And please spread the word to any families who would be interested. We are looking for academically talented students of color currently in 4th, 5th, and 7th grade. So please spread the word. You're our biggest marketing tool, always parents. Word of mouth is great. So please, begin your applications and submit them by April 15th. And we look forward to reading your applications. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful evening. Take care, everyone. Bye.